And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time ever, we are also on Twitter. We'll see if that works out. Of course, tonight we are going to be talking about a very important topic, which is the horrible air quality that is in place throughout the region. Let me just make sure this actually might be working properly. Look at this. Very nice. So we'll make sure that's up and running. And we're live there too. And we are there too. I'll make sure that's muted. Wow. Okay. So we're live on YouTube, Twitter, and of course in the premium section. Just so you guys know, you guys are new to Twitter and watching this video. We take the live questions, all the questions on the live chat area here with all my great subscribers, which is building up almost like as if it was kind of like in winter. So definitely increasing live chat there. And as I go through the night, I also take the best questions that come out of YouTube and Twitter. In this case now also Twitter. We'll see how that works out with Twitter. No promises yet. And we discuss the latest weather conditions, the latest evolution of our weather pattern. Yes, even in the middle of summer, we'll get questions about the upcoming winter weather pattern. And of course, my rant on baseball, because I gotta have the Mets game on right here while I'm doing this, just like I always do. So, what's going on here? Well, let's take a look at some of the data, shall we? Well, we have a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke. It is literally still orange outside my window here. It's been orange since about late this morning with a very dense fog, probably some of the worst air quality I have ever experienced in my life. And it's not going away anytime soon, unfortunately. But there is some hope that we are going to be improving conditions as we move forward over the next couple of days. And that's mostly focused for Sunday evening and on, and I'll show you why. So currently, this is the visible satellite picture before the sun started to set. You can clearly see the smoke that is in place over here. If it wasn't for the smoke, we'd have generally clear skies and maybe a few clouds, and that is about it. But with all the smoke, it has reduced visibility quite a bit. You can see that with the current conditions here, where we have visibility below a mile around Trenton, 1.5 miles around Philadelphia, 1.33 of a mile around Belmar. It is ugly out there. And of course, this is impacting everything from travel conditions, air quality, your plane flights. It's causing massive delays, in some cases, outright cancellations. And unfortunately, these conditions will continue to be a factor tonight, tomorrow, Friday. It's not getting much better, but there is hope on the way. Before we discuss the hope of this all changing out, we should probably take a look at the water vapor satellite picture, because this really tells the story. It tells you everything you need to know. And this is why I love using the water vapor satellite picture and have loved using it for years, going over 20 years. And you could thank meteorologist Jim Cantori for that from the Weather Channel, who basically used it for the first time on live TV when I was a kid, and I was amazed by all the ability that you can use with it. So clearly what we have in place is an impressive upper level low, and this upper level low is supporting a northwesterly wind at all levels of the atmosphere. And what that does is that it continues to transport all that smoke that is building up from all these forest fires around Quebec and Ontario and sending it right towards our neck of the woods. In order to end this deluge of smoke, you need this upper level low to fall apart and exit out into the Atlantic. Until it does so, we're not going to see an end to this pattern. Unfortunately, in order to get rid of this upper level low, we're going to have to introduce another one, because we are still in a pattern where the 500 millibar pattern is extremely amplified. And you can see that pretty nicely here in our 500 millibar pattern right here. just a continuation of these upper level lows in this enhanced 500 millibar pattern, thanks to our current El Nino state, which has really enhanced the polar jet stream and the subtropical jet stream. So until we get rid of this upper level low, we have to struggle with this upper level low. So what we have to look for is for this to weaken, so this could get kicked out, and this upper level low comes in and drops in towards the Great Lakes. When does all that happen? This weekend, specifically on Sunday. Sunday is going to be a very important day because that's when we start to see the winds change. And let me pull up those winds right here in the forecast. See right here, you continue with that northwesterly flow at all levels of the atmosphere. It is not until we get to Saturday night into Sunday where the winds start to back more towards the west, and that's when we start to move our air mass from the smoky Canadian Maritimes and northeastern Canada to the Ohio River Valley. Granted, not the best, but certainly an improvement. And then by Monday and Tuesday, we get more of a southwesterly wind at all levels of the atmosphere, southerly right from 850 millibars, and that basically transports an air mass coming in from the Caribbean, which, although more humid and certainly warmer, at least it won't be smoky. And then we'll add in the factor of supporting some rainfall in this weather pattern. Let me pull up the right one here. So you can see by Monday and Tuesday we get stronger lifting, a cold front approaching, and the potential for showers and thunderstorms. So we shift from a dry, smoky pattern where there is a threat for an isolated shower or thunderstorm, and I want to discuss that in a moment, explaining why I'm rather concerned about this, about the thunderstorms for tomorrow and for Friday. But we also finally get to the point where we get some more rainfall in the region by the time we get to Monday, and especially on Tuesday, with some heavier downpours, which I'm sure I'll get plenty of questions about that. We'll cover that in a second. So again, here's our wind pattern that we have to look for it to change. And you can see on Sunday, more of that westerly component, it chokes off the smoke here. So all your smoke is coming here. If you get a westerly component on Sunday, that puts an end to this smoke transport and allows our atmosphere to clear out and dry and get a little bit better. And then by Monday, we get that southerly flow. So we're no longer dealing with the air mass directly with all this smoke. Instead, we see massive improvement and also an increase in humidity and a threat for showers and thunderstorms. In the meantime, this is the latest HRR guidance, and again, over the next 48 hours, very, very rough this afternoon and tonight, right? Anytime you're up into these levels of smoke in the atmosphere, I mean, that's really bad. But as we go forward, it'll start to reduce a little bit, but anytime you're above 40, it's still not good, you know? So unfortunately, if you have any type of lung issues, asthma, even overcoming COVID or anything of that nature, please stay indoors. If you have any sinus issues, stay indoors. You're most likely to get some headaches and whatnot. I know that we've been dealing with that quite a bit. Me and Susan, my wife, and we've been struggling with that for a bit for the past couple of days. It has not been fun. And we could really use this all to clear out. So in the meantime, with the environment of all the smoke in the atmosphere, we also have to watch out for showers and thunderstorms. Now today we kind of dodged a few, but tomorrow and Friday we see this increase. And I'm concerned about this scenario, not for the heavy downpours, but because of the lightning threat. Hear me out here. You have a lot of smoke in the atmosphere. In fact, I got an idea. I think it's a good time to use my chart. So let me pull that out. 1 second. Okay. So, back to school. let's talk about all this smoke in the atmosphere, shall we? Now, we have our atmosphere up here. And with all this smoke hanging around, you got all these particles hanging around. With different charges in the atmosphere. Now, think of all this smoke kind of like a staging platform, right? The more staging platforms you have, the more that water vapor can build up on clouds. So you have these little water vapor particles that can accumulate and build up on these clouds. And they're all building their little skyscrapers on all these particles. Now, normally, we just have a normal amount of cloud nuclei in the atmosphere. That's your dust and other particles, pollution in some cases, all sorts of dead animal parts, stuff like that. It's all floating in the atmosphere, believe it or not. But with this smoke and all the debris associated with all the houses burning and whatnot, you add a ton more all over the place. So there's more building going on. But there's also more particles to create an electrical charge. That's pluses and negatives. And then you have all your negatives and positives down here at the surface. So you're increasing the potential for electrical charge in these showers and thunderstorms. And you already have a very dry environment at the surface. So in this case, I'm not worried about heavy downpours so much, although precipitable water values are around a half an inch to an inch. I'm more concerned about these rogue lightning strikes, and not every thunderstorm will have it, but enough will be a threat on Thursday and Friday that they could easily cause additional wildfires around the region. So I'm going to be watching this very carefully. Hopefully it doesn't materialize, but we've already seen some cases already throughout the region with some thunderstorms yesterday. And it's because we have a higher electrical charge in the atmosphere with all this dust and debris hanging around the region. It's a threat we need to monitor very carefully. Now, hopefully, with all of these staging platforms for our cloud nuclei, it allows us to maximize the precipitable water in the atmosphere to support a few heavy downpours. But in addition to the dry environment we have at the surface, we also have dry air at the mid-levels around 925 to 850 millibars. That unfortunately will cause evaporation of a lot of this rainfall before it reaches the ground, as we've seen in some other locations. So they look impressive on the radar, but don't really pack much of a punch in reality. So we'll keep an eye on that, but that is a concern I have with some of these thunderstorms that are popping up, that are showing up on the radar on Thursday and Friday, that we will be monitoring very, very carefully. So while all that is going on, what else is happening in the atmosphere? Well, let's talk about some changes in tropical forcing. And let me pull up some data here. Okay, now the MJO. The MJO right now is kind of getting blunted a bit in terms of its influence. The MJO is an important factor for tropical forcing, right? But when we start to get El Niño or La Niña taking control, the MJO becomes more of a secondary characteristic. But it's an important one because it kind of tells us a theme that is happening within the La Niña or El Niño. Now, in this case, we have El Niño rocking and rolling, right? And that's pretty clear, the way that the water temperatures are warming up at a steady pace. Every location is now in an El Niño state, and the SOI values are free falling. So we're clearly in an El Niño state. It will likely be official in a couple weeks from the CPC, but we are moving in that direction. Now, the MJO factor here that we're watching, it moves from a phase 8 to a phase 1 and off towards phase 3. Why does that matter to us? It's an indication of a pattern change, an important one. It means that the polar jet stream is going to relax a bit. And it also means that we're going to have a higher potential for hot air masses to build over the United States. So when you see this shift taking place, it starts to primarily, in my opinion, influence the subtropical jet stream. And in the polar jet stream, it causes a relaxation. So that's how we are getting the evolution here in our model guidance. And this is showing up on the European guidance, the GFS guidance, and your ensemble guidance. It's starting to show up on, let me pull up the European ensembles. That's also showing up there too. So what does this mean for us? Okay, well, basically this. As the polar jet stream relaxes, we lose our upper level low around the Aleutian Islands, okay? This looks like a little bit more of a convective feedback feature, but it also starts to lose some of its punch, and you get more of this zonal pattern. You still get a trough on the East Coast, but it's not as amplified. So the cold fronts that move through are relatively weak, and the polar air masses don't get as far south. What we start to see also, because the MJO is moving into a phase 3, 4, and 5, is that you get a weakening of the subtropical jet stream and building of 500 millibar heights. This is bad news for Texas because that means the heat is coming back and with a vengeance, and it's going to spread throughout the southeast. It's also going to be an issue if you are around Philadelphia. Why not New York? That's where things get interesting. You see, the way that this trough is set up, I'm envisioning that we are going to have one heck of an impressive thermal gradient from Boston down to Philadelphia. And the question is whether or not we see backdoor cold fronts becoming an issue once again in this type of pattern. Anytime you see below normal heights around the Canadian Maritimes, you have to watch out for that very carefully. So it's something that we're going to be keeping an eye on to see how it evolves, but I do think that we shift more towards a summer-like pattern with warmer conditions and a higher threat for thunderstorms. Especially watch out for thunderstorms that are dropping out of the Great Lakes, I think, for the middle and end of this month. And that's all driven by typically what we see with our MJO state, which again, I'll bring it right here. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of the long-range guidance, it all eventually takes the MJO into a neutral state. What does this mean? To me, what it means is that El Nino is about to really ramp up and ramp up in influence in terms of forcing on the atmosphere and strength. And we're also going to be learning about the actual orientation of this El Nino. So I think by the middle to end of June, we'll have these details all played out. We'll have an understanding of what to expect. And from there, yes, we could start to discuss the fall and winter weather patterns. Now, while all this is evolving, I'm sure you also noticed this little indication down here. Yes, the GFS is up to its little tricks, creating tropical storms and hurricanes all over the place after day 10. Warning, this is typically a convective feedback, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the point that during this time of year, right around here, climatologically speaking, is your best potential for tropical cyclones to develop, especially during El Nino years. Now, right now, we got nothing, right? You have a lot of dry air. The dry air was so impressive in sinking that it caused a major heat wave in Puerto Rico, and it's pretty much choking out the intertropical convergence zone. You got these strong short waves marching off the African coast, and then they get sliced, diced, and murdered by the strong vertical wind shear that is in place. Thank you, El Nino. And yes, it is going to be a factor. But we also have very warm Atlantic waters. And that's where things could get a little interesting around Cuba. Now, what the GFS is trying to do is this. It has a stationary front hanging around here, and that's clearly in place right now. The stationary front kind of lingers, it festers about, and you can get a tropical low. Now, the way that it develops a tropical low screams a convective feedback error, which is why I wouldn't advertise it all that much, okay? But it is important to point out that if you're going to get tropical development, it is going to be in this area right here. So we'll watch it over the next 10 to 15 days and see if anything takes shape. I would probably limit the potential of any type of rapid intensification because of all the dry air in the Gulf at the same time and a lot of that vertical wind shear. But since we are going into MJO phases 5, it is something that we have to monitor just because the shear will be reduced a bit. So something just to keep an eye on. But again, I wouldn't trust any of the details. Oh yeah, and by the way, the National Hurricane Center's little watch of this storm up here in the Azores, it's still a extratropical storm. It's not going to become tropical, subtropical, or anything of that nature, so you don't have to worry about it. So, just to recap my little rant, and then I'll start diving into the questions. The smoke continues on through the week and into Saturday. We start to see changes in the wind direction on Sunday at all levels of the atmosphere, and we start to see improvement in our conditions and in our atmosphere as we move forward from Sunday. Monday, better chance for showers and thunderstorms. Tuesday, widespread showers and thunderstorms. Some of them could be heavy, but I'm more concerned about the lightning threat on Friday, Saturday, and on going into the early part of the week with all these dry conditions around. Meanwhile, the tropics remain quiet. We will start to see a gradual pattern change, and we will start to see warmer conditions and more traditional thunderstorm threats coming out of the Great Lakes because of that eventual pattern change. Watch out for the end of the month, because then we got full El Nino effect once again, and I think we go back to a significant trough back in the east as a result. So with all that, let's dive into some of the questions here. Wow, we have quite a bit, and boy, are we busy here in the chat room. We also have a lot of activity here in YouTube and also on Twitter. So a lot of activity going on. Okay, so let's see here. It was so hazy. So Card was bringing it up. It was so hazy, smoky, and dark this afternoon. The only thing missing was the screeching of Ragroth. Ringroth? Is that like a dragon?
What?
Ringroth? I don't know. The only thing I know is Godzilla. See, that's pretty much it. What I do say is this. It kind of reminded me of the discussion that Tom Moore posted a couple of weeks ago about the significant smoke that developed around Ontario, dropped into Connecticut and New Jersey, and this was around 1680, and it literally led to people thinking the world was coming to an end because it was so dark and so smoky. They thought like hell itself had opened up. So it's pretty interesting to see our reaction now to a scenario that is very similar to what happened 300 years ago. 0.75 miles visibility and smoke here in the Lehigh River Valley. That's pretty bad. It's bad. Never seen anything like this before. Yeah, it's rough snow. It definitely is. Will the smoke and haze keep temperatures overnight higher than they would be otherwise? For instance, in the more built-up suburban urban areas of Union County, do you expect temperatures to get to 55 or below tonight? I know that daytime temperatures seem to have been suppressed by the smoke. That's a great question. The smoke is going to kind of act like a blanket. So where the smoke clears out just a little bit, you're going to see temperatures really drop off. But along the coast, and especially in your urban areas, you're going to get that urban heat island effect in which everything's going to get trapped. So your air quality is just horrendous and dangerous, and your temperatures are going to warm because it's like basically being under a blanket. So unfortunately, it's going to lead to warm and very uncomfortable and dangerous conditions. Just remember the late part of the 19th century, early part of the 20th century, until industrial emissions were really cleaned up, this kind of haze and soot in the atmosphere was normal. For large areas, definitely have to impact temperatures. Okay, so we're talking about smog, which certainly is a valid point in this scenario, and part of that atmospheric evolution does play a role here because you basically start to develop these inversions in the atmosphere and trap all this smoke down towards the surface. So certainly a factor here in that respect. Hopefully, though, we can clear that up pretty quickly. GFS 18Z has spun up its first hurricane of the year. The GFS has been trying to spin up this hurricane for a couple of runs now. I think the 18Z drove it right into the Gulf Coast. Again, I don't buy the actual forecast itself, but I do like the overall theme in terms of if there's going to be something that's going to develop, it's going to be somewhere in the Western Caribbean festering along this stationary front. But I don't see any indication of that taking shape at all right now. There's no indication in the low-level winds, no indication in the convection development, none. Nothing in the pressures. So, again, we'll keep an eye on it. If it's going to happen, climatologically speaking, it would take shape in those locations. If smoke is like this the rest of the week, don't know how they play baseball into the weekend or run the Belmont Stakes on Saturday. Yeah, it's rough. There is going to be some slight improvement, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to play outdoor activities. Any outdoor activities, Major League Baseball, soccer, horse running, high school sports, anything, traveling sports. Let me put it to you this way. If you have a child that's doing any type of outdoor sports and they tell your child that they have to be in these conditions, not worth it. Leave the team. Because this can cause, especially if you're having a significant workout, this could cause like serious scarring and real damage to your lungs. It's dangerous. So, I mean, this isn't like some like, oh, you know, it's a little smoky out. This is some dangerous stuff. When you are at the point in your model guidance, and let me go back to, let's see here. Did I take it down? I think I might have taken it down. All right, well, let me see if I can pull it back up. There it is. Okay, so as I was saying, when you have smoke levels up in this level, okay, you don't even need to understand, and it'd be smart if I pull up the data. There it is. Okay, you don't even need to understand this chart, okay? All you need to know is that you're in the violet area. That's really bad. That's like bad, bad. That's like you breathe it in, you start choking bad. If there is anybody telling your child or telling you that you cannot be on the team if you do not play in these conditions, they're not worthy of you playing for them. Simple as that. End of story. This is some dangerous. I'm not going out in it. I ran to the gym, ran from the car, back out, and that's it. And we've been indoors ever since. That's it. There is no way I would have anybody out in these conditions until we drop into this zone down here, these blue zones, 25, 20, 15. That's where it's more doable. But when you start getting above 30, 40, 80, 150 is bad enough as it is. That would be like, hey, use some caution. When you have to start pulling out the violets, that should tell you everything you need to know. This is some bad stuff. And if you're wearing a mask, I already had someone drop me an email saying, oh no, you shouldn't tell people to wear a mask. It's smoke. It's not only smoke from trees. No, you're not breathing in some bark. You're also breathing in a burnt down house. And you know what people put in some houses that could be pretty funky, okay? So now that house is burnt and you're breathing it in. And you're telling me that it's some sort of political thing to wear a mask? Idiot, wear a mask. Because you're breathing in bad, bad stuff that can really scar your lungs. Use some common sense. I like to have you around, even if you do annoy me sometimes. It's okay. It's good for you to be here. Just wear a mask in these conditions. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't have to be political. Not everything has to be political, for God's sakes. Everything. It's ridiculous. Use some common sense. Okay, that brief shower earlier this week where I was a great example of radar having more bark than bite. Showed good rain. All that made it to the ground was a brief shower that didn't completely wet everything. Yeah, this is a great example, again, of a lot of dry air in the atmosphere. And what basically occurs here in this scenario is that your rain's coming out of the clouds, and then all that dry air that's below that cloud is just basically sucking up all that moisture like a sponge. So unfortunately, until we break this whole environment, and I really think that we need a slow-moving cold front with waves of showers and thunderstorms to really crack this nut. Because if we don't, then basically what you get are these thunderstorms that march in towards the area, and then as they're moving in, they basically run into all this dry air and start to collapse. And we don't get the relief that we need. What we need is just waves of showers and thunderstorms. The first initial wave kind of dies out, but then each wave cuts away at this dry air and creates an improving condition, an improving environment to support rainfall. Unfortunately, I really don't see a lot of that. Any chance the smoke will clear? Any chance the smoke will return after it clears out? Well, all right. The short answer is yes. For much of June after this, we get more into a zonal flow. And if we get more of a zonal flow, if there's a forest fire in the Ohio River Valley, God forbid, then yeah, that smoke would come across this way and become a problem. But hopefully that doesn't become too much of an issue and we don't see that. And of course, there's also smoke that hangs around the area if you have any forest fires around our area itself. As far as the Canadian fires, if we break this northwesterly flow and go more west or southwesterly, then no, the smoke will not return from Canada. If we have a northwesterly flow again and the fires are still burning, I hope not, but if they are, then we will return back into this dangerous situation once again. With the pattern change coming up result in more rain where the Canadian fires are, so to help them out? Unfortunately, I don't really see that. Right now, I see where the storm track is very progressive, very fast moving. So in order for Canada to see a lot of rainfall, what I would want to see is an upper level low really take shape around the Hudson Bay. Let me pull that up real fast. Okay, so we go back here. So this is our current situation now. What I'd want is for an upper level low here to draw up a ton of moisture and drop it off into Quebec and Ontario. And that would also lead to very humid and active weather here, showers and thunderstorms, and they're marching way up into Quebec and Ontario. And also bring in some Canadian air mass around to the northeast of the Canadian Maritimes. So what we want is an upper level low right around here sustained. Right now, I don't see any indication of that taking shape. Oh, Lord of the Rings. That's why. I wasn't really much of a Lord of the Rings.
My mind, but it's been a while.
I tried watching those movies, and I'm like, okay, are we getting to the point yet? I want to see some fighting or something. It was too much for me. Now, look, if you're into the books, I get it. I'm upset Harry Potter fans. I'm like, how many movies do we need to make? But they were very, very, very much into every one of those movies. We also have Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. I know it could go on and on.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
But then again, who am I to complain? I got, like 32 Godzilla movies? So, I don't know. And I've watched every single one of them in English and Japanese. So, yeah, who am I to say anything? Yes, I remember the piece by Tom Moore. Great write-up. And also shows the current smoke situation, while unusual, not this bad around here, can happen. Yes. There are... I know that there are people who are using this as a climate change narrative. There are factors. Now, this is a complicated thing. Because, all right, forest fires, it would help if we actually did better with forest management. That would be a factor here. The dry conditions could be a climate manifestation that we're watching. The pattern itself is not unusual, but the amplification of the polar jet stream could be a factor that you would have to consider, but also plays into your typical El Nino. So I know a lot of people like to have a yes or no, or either party A or party B. But atmospheric science is not party A or party B. As much as people like to play the side games and this person versus that person, it's far more complicated, and there are far many different factors that go into the setup that we are currently seeing now. And it would be, well, quite frankly, irresponsible of me to just say, well, it's only this factor. It's multiple factors that are all coming together to create this situation. Let's see. Are there any models for smoke besides the HRR, and has it performed? How has it performed so far? The HRR has actually performed very well. I haven't come across other models for smoke, but you know what? Let me. If there is a way, no, it's only the HRR that I have. And honestly, it has been performing pretty well. It pretty much has done a nice job with handling this situation. But I would guess, let's see, an older model I used to have would be the WRAP, but that really was discontinued on NCEPT. So far the HRR is leading the way. I guess you could use the NAM, but I don't have any guidance for that right now. But other sites might have it. The 55-degree question is that the temperature where if it is at or below, AC should not be run, would rather be able to run it at night due to all the outside air. Personally, we're forcing the air conditioner to run, regardless of temperature, just to keep the air clean. Because we have HEPA filters and we have like UV lights, all this other stuff, crazy stuff going on to keep the air clean. So we're forcing the system to work. So if there's a way to do that for you, I would suggest doing so. It sounds like you're describing our dry low-level boundary layer from last summer. In many cases it is, okay? But this is more widespread. Last year you had a lot of localized areas creating that, and you had specific areas like around Monmouth County and Ocean County. You had, let me zoom in here. Okay. Let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, perfect. So last summer, what we had was a lot of dry air here that killed thunderstorms coming in, and dry air here that killed thunderstorms coming in. And those dry areas were part of where we were seeing downsloping off of the Hudson Highlands. And then you kind of have like a bowl shape here between the coast and the Delaware River Valley. You kind of get this little bowl shape here, like a little indent. And you had a lot of dry air in this area here. So anytime you had showers and thunderstorms marching their way through, they'd start to die as they moved past Trenton and Philadelphia, and then barely anything got to the Jersey Shore. And around Long Island, the thunderstorms would get murdered here and then collapse and not really reach New York City all that much. In this case, it's not mesoscale driven, it's just synoptically driven. It's all over the place. So it's a dry environment for a lot of the region outside maybe northern Connecticut. So what you have to really overcome is not only dry air at the boundary layer, 1,000 millibars to 925 millibars, but also at 850 millibars and 700 millibars. The books are far better. I bet. Yeah, the books always are. Let's take a look at YouTube here and see what we have here. When will the heat come? Why would you want heat? Why? I want to know one thing before I answer that question. Why would you want 90 plus degree heat? I don't know. Do you know why, huh? Any clue?
No.
No? I don't. Personally, I like it cool. I could do without the smoke, which right now is a very dark haze outside now. I can barely see out the window. That's not good. I'll put it this way. We return back to normal for the middle of this month and beyond. I don't want the heat.
No.
All right. Good evening, Carl. Let's see here. Imagine this was December and January. There'd be a lot of ticked off people, and I'll tell you why. And I'll go right back here. If this was December or January and you had this upper level low here, you know what you get? Let me go back to here. You get a lot of storms that are forming around North Carolina and heading out into the Atlantic. And you get a lot of missed snow events and a lot of ticked off people. Will we see orange lighting? Unfortunately, I think so. As I do, this reminds me of when David Schwartz on The Weather Child did his Wonders of
That's what
Weather.
we're doing this stuff on the board.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That was fun. Thank you. That's a hell of a compliment. We will have to wait until Monday for significant rain to clear out the smoke and haze. Unfortunately, yes, and it's going to come in waves of showers and thunderstorms. Really, Tuesday is your best potential for all your widespread rainfall. How many heat waves this summer? Not a lot. We're going to be below normal, I think. I really do. With that trough axis on the East Coast, it really is going to push our southwesterly flow more over the Atlantic. And I think we'll have a lot of stalled cold fronts. I think we'll see the pattern that we've seen for much of May and early June more in place than what we'll see with the expansive weather pattern. And that is because of the nature of this El Nino developing, where the convection is developing around the dateline, and how that's influencing the upper level low around the Aleutians. If I continue to see an upper level low around the Aleutians, that's going to lead to a trough on the east and really limit your heat wave potential. You're my go-to weather guy. Thank you, Virginia. I really appreciate that. I like the heat because severe thunderstorms. I give up. Okay. I'm going to just leave that alone.
Yeah.
Because you know what it is? It's different when you finally bought a house. The last thing you want to hear is tornadoes. I think that's it. I mean, I love severe weather, just far away from me. Level versus all the noise online. Thank you for these streams. It's amazing to get this level of information versus all the noise online. I appreciate that. Yeah, I try to be. Let's see here. No thank you on the 90s. Plus, if you still don't have rain, 90s are very bad news. Yeah, it's not good for farming or anything else.
Yeah,
It's rough. It could really cause a lot of problems. Let's see, how is Twitter land doing here? Let's see here.
I don't see, like, we had like one person comment twice.
Okay. Well, I mean, you got 12 views. I don't know what that means.
You've had a lot more.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hold on. I'll show you in a second.
I don't know.
Look at the top.
Holy smokes. Wow.
You've had a lot of floating in and out.
Well, that's good. Floating in and out is good. It's like Muhammad Ali, right? Floating around.
James Swan is commenting quite a bit on there.
About what?
No, nothing. He likes what you're doing.
Oh, good deal. Thank you, James Swan.
You can't see that?
I can't follow it along with everything else. I have Twitter up on the website, but I can't see any of the.
He said, I like the Twitter Live deal, bravo. And then he wasn't sure if it was seen, so he said bravo again.
Oh, sweet.
And he said, no normal human wants severe weather.
That's, you know what, I get the excitement. I really do. You know, here's the thing, right? Is that what I've tried to do is that I want to bring meteorology back to more of a sane reaction. What I mean by this is that I don't want to go around hyping up every weather event. And I know that there's a lot of people that do that, and they get their followings and they get their subscriptions and they make a ton of money on YouTube and whatnot. And yeah, could I do that? Sure. I mean, you've seen me get excited about winter storms before.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know?
Stay up all night.
But I don't think I could live with myself doing that. So I tried to be as down to earth as possible. And I think we need more of that in terms of storm impacts, severe weather events, climate change. Climate change, I think that we need to get away from all of the hyperbole and the world's ending stuff and go into more of a, you know, here are the realistic facts. Here's our technology. Here's what we can do. Here's what we have to prepare for. And here's why. And then if someone says, well, I don't think that it's real, then you have to explain to them politely and as an adult, not talking down to somebody, of why these factors matter. Look, if you have any doubt about climate change, all you need to know is this. Basic physics law. Whatever you add into a system, there will be a reaction from that system, okay? What comes up must go down, right? Very basic laws. If you add in a factor in the atmosphere, you will get a result as a return. Does that mean the world's going to end? No. But we should probably be aware of what we're doing. Okay? But again, be calm. It's just science, and it's here for you to learn. So let's see what we got here.
We have a question on Twitter, and something just came through on YouTube.
Okay, well, let's just check out the live chat real fast. Oh, hold it. And the Mets hit another home run. Tommy Pham. Holy smokes. Now, as you guys know, I'm also a Mets fan, and I also got the Mets on here. They are leading 4-1 again in the fifth. I am not being fooled. I will wait to see if they actually remain ahead by the ninth inning. I've been burned already last night. Thank you very much. Dew points in the upper 30s and lower 40s, but the smoke would be about as nice weather as you could have to get in the summer. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for this smoke, it'd be freaking beautiful out. I'd be outside, you'd be outside, we'd be gardening stuff, we'd be planting stuff. I'd be getting ready to grill because I'm going to get my new grill, and I got my burgers and steak and everything, ribs and okay. But it would be beautiful. But unfortunately, the smoke is like, no. Okay, so what do we got on YouTube here? Spotty light orange fog at 6:30 a.m. this morning. By 4 p.m., the air turned chokingly orange and dense. I'm in Voorhees. It smells like a campfire outside.
Smells like a campfire
in here. Yeah, like this. Literally, my guinea pig. Okay, Norman. He is a very sensitive soul. He's like, what, like near 90?
He's a little old man.
He's a little old man. And
80s.
we decided to put a candle on in the living room just to kind of get rid of the smoke smell. He literally turned his little hidey house towards the candle so he can enjoy the smell because the smoke was bothering him so much. And we have the windows closed and everything. It's just the smell is everywhere. It's hard to get away from it. And right now I'm looking at my window and literally it's like as if it's London with fog, but it's smoke. That's not good. Again, if you could stay indoors, please do. Let's see here. So we had some questions on Twitter as well, right, hon?
Huh?
Some questions on Twitter as well?
Well, somebody asked what the forest fire outlook is, and somebody else said it's a hoax, and somebody else said, asking about, I guess they misheard, they said something about bonfires.
Okay, so the forest fire situation, I know that they're working on putting them out. I know that we sent more firefighters up there, hopefully they could quell it. Unfortunately, the conditions that are supporting the forest fire are not changing all that much, so we're really going to have to naturally put it out. As far as whatever is a hoax, well, the fire ain't a hoax. I don't know what you're talking about.
Somebody in Twitter is a troublemaker.
That's okay. Look, it's all right. Everything's going to be fine. You don't have to be angry. I don't know. Let's see here. Yankees have Judge and Cortez added to the disabled list. Yeah, well, my first baseman, well, hold it. He's back out in the... Okay, look. Oh, he's taped up, though. Okay. So, my first baseman, the best home run hitter in all of baseball, the polar bear himself, was hit today viciously by the Braves as what I think it was a coordinated attack. And he might be hurt. I don't know. He doesn't seem like he's in too much pain right now, but he was taken out of the game. And hopefully he'll be okay. But there should be retribution.
Two things on Twitter.
Yes.
Somebody said, was there any reports of ash falling during the smoke invasion?
I haven't heard of any. You know what? Nowhere I saw ash actually being.
Thought I did, but nothing official.
Nothing around here. Although I would be interested to see if we saw anything being reported when I take a look at the climate data for, like, let's say JFK and LaGuardia and whatnot, and Central Park. But in my old stomping grounds around Oswego, New York, I know that they reported kind of like an ashiness on some of the leaves and whatnot, and that's very close to a lot of these fires. And of course, it also reported in Canada itself. But I don't think I've seen anything reported down here.
Somebody else asked, when will this clear out any better tomorrow?
Not much better. There will be some slight improvement from the transport, but unfortunately, this air is going to be stagnant and kind of hanging around. But as far as the type of air that's moving in, we'll get a little bit of relaxation, but this stuff is still going to be hanging around. I don't really see an improvement until we get the wind shifting. It looks like the wind shifting maybe on Sunday, more from the southwest. Even then, it'll just end the transport of more smoke, but we still have to clean out the air. So basically, you stop the transport of smoke, but it's still kind of hanging in the air. So that's where the rainfall comes in on Monday and Tuesday. Any thoughts on a wetter summer and staying cool? I am concerned about the idea of a wetter summer. You know what we need? What we need is a tropical system. We need a slow moving remnant tropical system. Let's say that it heads up through the Gulf Coast, it gets drawn into a cold front and slowly marches up into the region and just produces widespread heavy rain everywhere, but a slow heavy rain. Because if we get like a blitz of like an inch in like an hour, all that does is wash off the topsoil and it doesn't get into the groundwater. So it basically hurts farming, creates flash flooding, and doesn't reduce the drought situation. So we need like a sustained rainfall event. Unfortunately, I don't see anything like that showing up in the guidance right now. So right now we're kind of stuck where we're at in terms of dry conditions. But I do like cool. Yep.
Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Does the haze actually affect heat buildup and thunderstorm activity?
Not so much heat buildup, because you're actually blocking some of the solar impacts. And in this scenario, because we're dealing with a Canadian air mass, we really don't have a lot to work with. It might have been a different scenario if you had like fires building up, let's say around the Tennessee River Valley, or let's say around the Appalachian Mountains, and all that smoke blew in here on a southwesterly wind. Then you're adding in humidity, you're adding in rising 500 millibar temperatures and the smoke. So it would have enhanced the low temperatures at night, and then during the day you'd have those enhanced 850 millibar temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius or so. In this case, we're more closer to 2 degrees Celsius, so it's a cool environment to start off with. As far as thunderstorm threat, as I discussed earlier in the chat, the smoke creates more cloud nuclei, which increases the potential for cloud development, which increases the potential for thunderstorm development. But the thunderstorm development would be more of a concern for lightning than it would be for rainfall. Judge is the best home run hitter in the game. He's very good. LaGuardia had a ground stop for flights. The air was so bad there. Yeah, I know. It was rough. A lot of that had to do with the visibility. The visibility was at IFR conditions. It was bad, very bad. So that doesn't surprise me one bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're also checking out their engines to see if any particles got in there. Not good. Let's see, what else we got? We've been doing really well. I'm really impressed. And I'll tell you one thing, the Twitter live thing has worked out really well as well. You know,
We just tweak a few things.
yeah, I'll work on it. Hey, Elon, let's get some things worked out over here. But I think that this might actually be a good thing, especially during the winter. You know, we could do YouTube, Twitter, and of course, all the primary questions are coming in from our premium live chat. So if you are interested in becoming a premium member, it's as simple as just subscribing at nynjpaweather.com for $11 a month or $80 a year. Pretty fair, not too bad, right? And you get all this information and more every day, not just at the live chat. So let's see what else we have going on here. Let's pull up the radar here. Let me swing around and see if we have anything of interest. Now, this is the WeatherTap radar. I've used WeatherTap since, and this isn't a plug or anything. I get no payment out of this as far as like commercial or anything. But I've been using WeatherTap since 1998, which is a long. God, I feel old. 1998. That's like 25 years. How's that like a quarter century?
We're antiques.
No, I shall not. I am ageless.
We're vintage. Okay,
We're
we'll put it
vintage.
that way. We're vintage.
We're vintage. Oh, great. More Mets are hitting each other. Now, what the hell is going on now? Oh God. Okay, so our WeatherTap radar is showing these troughs hanging around the region. Threat for some showers here. We're going to have to watch out for this area right here. The reason why I'm concerned about this area right here is that as this swings south, it could set up some boundaries for us for tomorrow afternoon. And that could lead to some thunderstorms firing up. So we'll watch this very carefully and see how that plays out. Card access. If we get a real strong El Nino, those winter chats will probably be people asking, where is the snow? Great point. You know what's going to be interesting is if we get a strong El Nino, but we get a lot of convection around the date line, and we get that disturbed polar vortex situation again, I wonder how that plays out. Because during El Ninos, even during strong El Ninos, one of the primary features is that you get the subtropical jet stream interacting with the polar jet stream and more phase storms. So in a strong El Nino, what happens is that the phase happens too early. So your storm track, let me zoom out here, in fact. Okay, so let me have a little fun here. I'm going to show you something real cool. We'll take this off, and that off. Okay, so what happens during a strong El Nino is that the phase happens more back here towards Texas and Louisiana. So you have your polar jet stream, subtropical jet stream, and with the phase here, it sends your low pressure systems up through the Tennessee River Valley and cutting up towards the Great Lakes. Your negative NAO pattern is usually displaced off to the east, so it's what we call an east-based negative NAO, which allows the storms to cut up towards the St. Lawrence River Valley and then redevelop in the Gulf of Maine. And Maine and northern New England just gets pounded with snow, and all the snow lovers hate me because they're like, when are we ever going to get a winter storm? We keep on missing it. If we get a strongly disturbed polar vortex, that phase gets shifted east, and then you end up with more storms on the East Coast. Now, in a weak and a moderate El Nino, this whole phasing process happens here, which increases your storm potential here and makes a whole lot of people very happy who love snow. So we'll see how that evolves as we move forward over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, a strong El Nino, then once you're at that point, you need a lot of things to work out just right. And let's see here. Any thoughts there? It looks like we're doing pretty good here. Some excellent questions, though, from the live chat. Outstanding job, as always, you guys. So it is currently 9 p.m. or 8:58 p.m. We're going to, I think we'll wrap it up for the night. 650 viewers right now. Holy Bob. Oh, not total. I'll take it. That works. Okay. That's awesome. I think we're going to call it for tonight. I think we really covered a lot of topics and we had a lot of fun. Again, we'll be doing our live chat again next week. It looks like we're going to focus on Tuesday because I actually want to do the live chat while we get these showers and thunderstorms developing, and we'll see whether or not it made an impact on as far as the dry environment and possibly track a few stronger thunderstorms at the same time. And bonus, Mets versus Yankees. So we'll also do a little bit of live commentary while that's happening as well as the Mets sweep the Yankees. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Let's beat the Braves first, right? Okay, you guys have a wonderful night. And as always, stay safe out there.